Olivia flipped her hair, smirking as she crossed her arms. The dim light of the upscale lounge cast a golden glow on her flawless skin, accentuating the self-assured tilt of her chin. She had always been the kind of woman who turned heads, and she knew it. "I just think I can do better," she said, her voice smooth, almost casual, as if she were discussing a minor inconvenience rather than ending a relationship. Nathan sat across from her, still as stone. He didn't flinch, didn't protest, didn't ask why. He simply watched her, a quiet intensity behind his gaze, as if memorizing the moment. Not out of heartbreak, but for something else entirely. Something Olivia couldn't see, yet. She expected outrage, maybe a desperate plea. Men like Nathan didn't just let go of women like her. Or so she thought. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping against the glass of bourbon he had barely touched. "All right," he said, "just that. No anger, no argument, no attempt to make her stay." A flicker of something unreadable passed through Olivia's expression. She had rehearsed this conversation in her mind. How Nathan would try to convince her otherwise, how she'd shake her head, playing the role of the woman who had to make a tough choice, how eventually, maybe, she'd let him chase her just enough to feed her ego before walking away completely. But this was unexpected. "That's it?" she asked, a hint of incredulity slipping into her tone. Nathan took a slow sip of his drink, then met her gaze with a small knowing smile. "That's it." Olivia huffed a quiet laugh, shaking her head. "Wow, I mean, I didn't expect you to beg or anything, but what?" Nathan's voice remained level, unreadable. She hesitated. "Nothing," she murmured, waving a hand dismissively. If he wasn't going to fight for her, that was his problem, not hers. She had plans, and just like that, she walked away, feeling victorious. For now, because months later, in a crowded rooftop bar dressed in the kind of outfit meant to be seen, she spotted him. Nathan. Only he wasn't alone, and for the first time since she left him, Olivia felt something cold settle in the pit of her stomach. Regret. Olivia had always believed she was a woman who upgraded, never downgraded. The men who came after Nathan were supposed to be proof of that. At first she reveled in the freedom, the thrill of something new, the excitement of not settling for comfort, but reaching for something better. She convinced herself she had made the right choice, but life had a way of twisting expectations into cruel ironies. The first man she dated after Nathan was a venture capitalist. Charming, suave, the kind of man who knew how to make a woman feel special, until he didn't. He wined and dined her in the finest restaurants, made her laugh with witty remarks, but there was always something hollow behind his smiles. Within weeks she realized he wasn't the devoted, steady kind of man Nathan had been. When he canceled dates at the last minute with vague excuses, Olivia brushed it off. When he barely listened to her when she spoke, she told herself she was imagining things. But when she caught him with another woman, at the very restaurant where he once promised her exclusivity, something cracked inside her. Still, she refused to look back. Nathan had probably moved on too, right? And even if he hadn't, what did it matter? She dated another man. A hedge fund manager, wealthy, successful, everything she thought she wanted, but he treated her like an accessory, like someone who existed to make him look good rather than someone to be cherished. With every passing moment, Olivia felt the absence of something she couldn't quite name. One night, after another soulless dinner date, she found herself scrolling through her old messages with Nathan. "I miss you." She stared at the words she had typed, her thumb hovering over the send button, but she never pressed it. Pride wouldn't allow it. And then came the night everything changed. She had gone to an upscale rooftop lounge, dressed to turn heads, feeling in control of her narrative. But nothing could have prepared her for what she saw. Nathan, looking better than she had ever seen him, stronger, more confident, a quiet power in the way he carried himself, as if he had always known his worth and had never once questioned it. And beside him was her, Sophia, effortless grace. A beauty that didn't try too hard because it didn't need to. She was the kind of woman who didn't just enter a room, she belonged in it. Her laughter was light, genuine. The way she looked at Nathan wasn't possessive, wasn't calculated. It was real. A slow, sickening realization washed over Olivia. She had spent months trying to convince herself she had made the right decision, that leaving Nathan was a step up, that she had been the one in control. But, looking at him now, radiant, thriving, completely untouched by her absence, Olivia knew the truth. She hadn't walked away from him. She had walked away from the best thing she ever had. And now, she was just another woman in the crowd, watching a man she once thought she could replace prove that he had been irreplaceable all along. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she stared across the rooftop lounge. The city's skyline glittered behind Nathan, casting him in a glow that made him seem almost untouchable. He looked effortlessly put together, his tailored suit sharp, his presence commanding in a way she had never fully appreciated before. But it wasn't just Nathan that sent the cold, sinking feeling through her. It was the woman at his side, Sophia. She was elegance incarnate, the kind of woman who didn't need flashy jewelry or a showy outfit to draw attention. Her confidence did that for her. Her laughter was light, genuine, as if nothing in the world could shake her peace. The way she leaned into Nathan, the subtle touch of her fingers against his wrist as she spoke. It was effortless, comfortable, real. Olivia's grip tightened around the stem of her cocktail glass. How had this happened? When she left Nathan, she had done so believing she could find better, that she was the prize, the one in control. She had assumed he would linger in her shadow, always there if she ever decided to look back. She never once considered that he would be the one to move on, that he would be the one to upgrade. And yet here he was, looking like he had never even skipped a beat, like losing her had done nothing but sharpen him. Her stomach twisted. She took a slow sip of her drink, willing herself to keep her composure, but her eyes kept drifting back to them, the way Nathan's lips curled into an easy smirk when Sophia whispered something in his ear, the way Sophia's fingers brushed his arm absent-mindedly as if he were hers, in a way Olivia had never truly possessed him. Olivia's heart pounded against her ribs. She had spent months telling herself she had made the right decision, but as she watched Nathan, her Nathan, gaze at another woman, like she was his entire world, doubt clawed at her. She forced herself to breathe, smoothing a hand over her dress as if fixing invisible wrinkles. She wouldn't let this get to her. She was Olivia, after all. She had options. She had men lining up to be with her. So why did it feel like the world had shifted beneath her feet? She turned to the man standing beside her, the one she had been entertaining that evening, a hedge fund manager named Daniel. He was wealthy, successful, the kind of man she once thought would be the perfect match. But as he spoke, his voice blending into the background noise, she found herself barely listening. Her attention was elsewhere, on Nathan, on Sophia, on what she had lost. Her fingers twitched over her phone, the familiar temptation creeping in. She had done this before, typed and erased messages, hovered over the send button, but tonight something in her cracked. She pulled out her phone and, before she could second-guess herself, she typed it. "I miss you." Her thumb hovered over the send button, her heart hammering. But just as she was about to press it, a movement caught her eye. Nathan had turned. Their eyes met. For the first time since she left him, Nathan was looking at her. For a fleeting second, something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Amusement? Pity? But then he smirked. Not the way he used to. Not the playful, knowing grin she once loved. No, this was different. Detached. Unbothered. He leaned in, whispered something in Sophia's ear, and whatever he said made her laugh. A soft, genuine sound that felt like nails dragging down Olivia's spine. Then, as if Olivia was nothing more than another nameless stranger in the room, Nathan turned away, just like that, like she had never existed, like she had never mattered. Olivia's stomach churned. Her fingers trembled over her phone screen. The weight of her mistake settled heavily in her chest. She had mattered to him once. She had held his attention, his devotion. She had been the woman in his life, but she had thrown it away, and now she was nothing more than a forgotten memory. Slowly, deliberately, she deleted the message. She wouldn't send it. Not now. Not ever. Because deep down, Olivia knew Nathan had already moved on. And the worst part? He was better off without her. Olivia sat frozen, her fingers still curled around her phone, her thumb hovering over the screen long after she had deleted the message. The noise of the rooftop bar faded into the background, the chatter and laughter of other guests becoming nothing more than a distant hum. Her world had shrunk down to a singular truth. She had lost Nathan, and there was no undoing it. She tried to pull herself together, adjusting her posture, forcing a smile onto her lips as if that alone could erase the heavy weight settling in her chest. "It's fine," she told herself. "I still have options. I'm still desirable. I can have any man I want." But no matter how many times she repeated those words in her head, they rang hollow. A waiter walked by and she reached for her cocktail, taking a long sip of the chilled drink, letting the sharpness of the alcohol distract her. But it didn't help. The ice clinked against the glass as her grip tightened. She could still see them, Nathan and Sophia, standing together, utterly at ease with one another. Sophia wasn't flaunting her presence. She wasn't clinging to Nathan or making a show of her affection. She didn't need to. The way Nathan looked at her, the way he leaned into her when she spoke, it was effortless. It was natural. It was real, and Olivia hated how much that realization burned. Daniel, the hedge fund manager she had been entertaining, reached out and touched her arm. "You all right?" he asked, his brow furrowed slightly. She blinked, snapping her attention back to him. "Of course," she replied too quickly, her voice breezy, artificial. "Why wouldn't I be?" Daniel chuckled, clearly buying her act. "I don't know, you just seem distracted. But hey, if you need another drink to loosen up, say the word." He grinned, lifting his own glass in a lazy toast before taking a sip. Olivia smiled back, but it was forced. She knew this game. She had played it before, pretending, smiling, pretending some more. But tonight, it felt exhausting, because she knew the truth now. Nathan wasn't the one who had lost. She was. She could see it so clearly now. The way she had taken his steady presence for granted, assuming he would always be there, always waiting. She had thought he was just Nathan, reliable, predictable, safe. But now she saw him through fresh eyes. He had never been the safe choice. He had been the right choice. And she had thrown him away like he was nothing. Her nails dug into her palm beneath the table. How could I have been so stupid? Daniel was still talking, but Olivia barely heard him. Her focus was locked on Nathan and Sophia. And then it happened. Nathan turned again. Their eyes met. It was just a second, one fleeting moment, but it was enough. She expected something. A flicker of recognition, maybe even a sign that he still thought about her, still felt something. But what she saw instead made her stomach drop. Nothing. Not anger, not resentment, not even the satisfaction of proving a point. Nathan's gaze moved past her as if she were nothing more than a stranger in the crowd. And that was what finally shattered her. For months she had comforted herself with the idea that if she ever wanted, she could walk back into Nathan's life. That deep down, some part of him still belonged to her. But now she knew the truth. Nathan didn't care. Not anymore. The realization made her throat tighten. She reached for her drink again, but she barely tasted it as she swallowed it down. The cold liquid did nothing to ease the growing ache in her chest. Daniel reached for her hand, clearly mistaking her silence for interest. "You want to get out of here?" he asked smoothly. Olivia hesitated. A few months ago she wouldn't have thought twice. She would have said yes, followed him somewhere private, let herself be distracted by empty pleasure. But now it felt meaningless. She pulled her hand away gently, shaking her head. "Not tonight," she murmured. Daniel raised an eyebrow, but didn't press. "Suit yourself," he said, finishing off his drink before standing. "If you change your mind, you know where to find me." She barely acknowledged him as he walked away. Her attention was still on Nathan. Not that it mattered, because he wasn't looking at her. He was leaning towards Sophia, murmuring something that made her laugh. Soft, warm, intimate. The kind of laugh Olivia had once thought belonged to her alone. And then, as if to drive the knife even deeper, Sophia reached for Nathan's hand, intertwining her fingers with his. It was subtle, a small, natural gesture, but it was enough. enough to tell Olivia everything she needed to know. Nathan wasn't waiting for her. He never had been. She had told herself she could do better. But standing there now, alone, watching the man she once had, the man she had let go, walk away with someone who had replaced her effortlessly, she finally understood. She had never been the prize. Nathan was, and now he belonged to someone else. Olivia sat in the back seat of the rideshare, staring out the window as the city lights blurred past. The once vibrant energy of the evening had turned into a heavy emptiness settling deep in her chest. She had walked out of that rooftop lounge with her head held high, but the moment she was alone, the weight of everything crashed down on her. Her fingers twitched as she unlocked her phone and instinctively opened Nathan's profile. His latest post was a simple photo. Nothing extravagant, nothing meant to show off. It was just him and her, Nathan and Sophia, sitting at a quiet cafe, their hands casually linked across the table. The caption was just a single word: grateful. Olivia swallowed hard, her throat tightening as she stared at the image. The warmth in his eyes was undeniable. That was the look of a man who was at peace, who had moved forward without hesitation. And Sophia, she was imposing. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just there with him, effortlessly fitting into the space Olivia had once occupied. For months, Olivia had reassured herself that Nathan had been the one who lost, that he would struggle to find someone as good as her, that he would regret not chasing after her when she walked away. But now, staring at the undeniable proof that he hadn't just moved on, he had upgraded, Olivia felt something she had never truly felt before. Regret, not the fleeting kind, not the kind that could be fixed with a temporary distraction or casual fling. This was permanent. She had thought she was irreplaceable. But the woman in that photo, the one sitting where Olivia used to sit, smiling at Nathan in a way that was entirely effortless, she had replaced her completely. And the worst part, Nathan didn't even seem to remember Olivia existed. Her hands trembled as she opened their old messages. She scrolled through the conversations, back when he used to send her good morning texts, when he used to check in just to make sure her day was going well. She hadn't appreciated it then. She had rolled her eyes at how predictable it all felt. And yet now, staring at the empty text box, she ached for that predictability. On impulse, she typed, "I miss you." For a few seconds, she just stared at the words. Then she deleted them. She tried again, "Thinking about you tonight." Her hands clenched into fists. No matter what she wrote, she knew it wouldn't change anything. Nathan wouldn't answer. And even if he did, it wouldn't be the way she wanted. Because the truth was simple. Nathan had let her go the moment she walked away. He had never been waiting for her to come back. He had been moving forward the whole time. Her chest tightened as she locked her phone and leaned her head back against the seat. The neon lights of the city flashed against the glass, a stark contrast to the darkness settling inside her. For the first time in her life, Olivia wasn't the one in control. She wasn't the one making the choices. She had been left behind. And the most painful part? Nathan was happier without her. She let out a slow breath, closing her eyes as the car continued through the city. For the first time, she truly understood what it meant to lose something you could never get back. And this time, there was no second chance.